keeping score, or just there's three-prong strategy at work here. Number one is to close on Trump's victory. Paramount, number one. 20 hours at close on Trump's victory, and we're closing on that victory. Okay? Step two is to make sure in this process we completely expose and destroy the globalist elite that's tried to steal this. This is the rear guard action from Hillary Clinton. We thought we put it to bed in 2016. Obviously, we didn't, right? And this is where the Bernie people should join us. But we're going to basically dismantle and deconstruct this rear guard action of which Biden's the cipher. I want to play later. I want to put up later. By the way, Ron Klain, the chief of staff, total phony. In February, tweeting out, nothing to worry about here. Nothing to worry about. We ought to be down in Chinatown. It's the Chinese and the Asians. Don't give me your phony you're with them. You're kowtow to the Chinese Communist Party in February, a month after we've been doing this. You're out there putting out your tweet, nothing to worry about. How much blood's on your hands, brother, of the firestorm that hit New York City and hit Queens and hit, de Blasio and Cuomo, they got plenty of guilt here. But so do you, sir. You're mocking people in February. We have an epidemic of, was it bad information? Right? No, sir. You had a pandemic. A pandemic. He's your chief of staff. Oh, they're so organized. They're so great. He is a clown and a phony, and there's blood on your hands. Oh, it's an epidemic of misinformation. No, sir. It was a pandemic, and it went through there like a firestorm. And how many people in those communities did you falsely lead to their death? Look at his tweet. We'll get it up later. Complete, total phony. The third aspect is so one is to close on the victory. Two is to take this and deconstruct it and bury it. This globalist elite that mock and ridicule you every day, your betters, who've led this whole thing into a total disaster. The third aspect is this, what's aborting? That great awakening you saw from South Florida with the Latinos and Hispanics in the South, in the anti-communist parade, to the 96-mile caravan in Arizona, to the 54,000 people that showed up around Butler, and everywhere in between. And part of that is to, if we got to, listen, the thing between rearguard establishment and the Trump movement, it's from Arizona to Pennsylvania, there's a lot to sort out here. And let's just sort it out now, right? No need to kick the can down the road for another day. Let's sort it out now. Let's go to Georgia, because you're seeing it in Arizona, you're seeing it in Pennsylvania, and you're seeing it in Georgia. Mr. John Fredericks, can you give us a situation report?
Yes, Steve. Thanks for having me live in Atlanta. This is where we've moved our headquarters. So we're supposed to have this recount and audit, which everybody was cheering, that finally we're going to get to the bottom of this. But instead, here's what happens. The Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, with the support of the Lieutenant Governor, Jeff Duncan, and the Governor, Brian Kemp, who, as you know, Steve, wouldn't be governor without Trump, they all stab Trump in the back and their deplorables. And here's what they do. This has become a sham audit. So what they're doing is, when they're counting the votes and doing an audit, they're only allowing in one observer per 10 teams, right? That means that if I'm an observer watching this, I can only watch 10% of the action, because I've got to observe 10 teams spread apart of 4 people each. The Republicans want a one-on-one sort of relationship. That's only the start of it. Here's what else they've done. Here's what else Raffensperger, the Republican Secretary of State, has done. He's turned the audit into a fake scam sham audit. They're not going to be checking signatures on absentee ballots. They're not going to be matching absentee ballots with addresses or with duplicate voters. They're not going to be matching absentee ballots with the envelopes and signatures they came in. So basically, if you've got 1,200,000, 1.2 million absentee mail-in ballots. They're not going to scrutinize them. They're simply going to recount them. So if they're phony ballots, they simply get recounted again. That's absolute insanity. They've done nothing. It is a complete farce what they're doing in Georgia. So today, the state national committee woman, Ginger Howard, very nice lady, and the state party chairman, Dave Schaefer, former state senator, he's got a spine, and Doug Collins, they sent a scathing letter to Rafflesberger saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't an audit. All you're doing is protecting your own election scam, and we can't even observe it because you've got a 1 to 10 relationship for the audit encounters. We want a 1-to-1 relationship. They're having a press conference today at noon. Jeff Duncan, the lieutenant governor, defended Rafflesberger, the Republican Secretary of State. He's a Republican, and again said, look, there's just nothing to see here. Well, if there's nothing to see here, then why don't you let us see it? Unbelievable. And the fact that there's an audit, the purpose of the audit is to scrutinize the mail-in ballots. Well, they've thrown that out. They're just recounting them exactly as they came in. What the hell kind of an audit is that? This is a complete farce. It's a scam, and it's done by Republicans because they don't want to expose their own incompetence. Steve, this is unbelievable.
So what do you tell me what you want? What's the recommendation? What do you want?
We want two things. We want a 1-to-1 relationship with counters, auditors, and observers. How tough is that? The Republican Party of Georgia will pay for that. Cost the state nothing. If you're going to be having a recount, why don't you let the Republicans come in, the volunteers and the paid staff, on a 1-to-1 basis and simply observe? Secondly, the purpose of the audit with 1.2 million mail-in ballots is, A, does the signatures match? B, does the address match? C, does the signatures on the envelopes they came in match? This is all Georgia law. Do they match? Number D, or letter D. Do the absentee ballots that came in, were they also duplicate ballots? Did people try to vote and then were told, no, there was an absentee ballot that came in? Do they have double registrations? Did they vote somewhere else? That's what an audit is, not simply recounting the scam that's already been done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, total sense. But here's the question. If it's Republicans, this is kind of the second part of the strategy here, is that Biden, the rearguard action of the elites, Biden can't even get, he can't even get the keys to the GSA building. He's being shown as so feckless every day and so weak every day for what they do. Last time I looked, President Trump's the head of this party. Is there one phone call from the White House could make this happen? So if you can't, you're not going to be able to sit there and prove that they stole the election if you can't even get guys in your party to, you bang some heads and make it happen. So make our audience feel better that heads are being banged and that Republicans are saying, yes, we will do and move heaven and earth to just show that the ballots are either legitimate or if they're not. If they're legitimate and certifiable, they got to count. Not even a question. But the question is, there's no chain of custody. So what's happening internally to make this happen now, besides people whining and going crazy?
Well, they sent Collins and Ginger Howard, the state committee woman, and the chairman of the Republican Party, Dave Schaefer, sent a scathing letter to Rafflesberger demanding this. There's a rally at noon. I have told them they need to have a press conference today on the Capitol steps, outside of the GOP headquarters at 3 o'clock, and invite the media and ask the question, why don't we do this? This has got to get to the attention of the political team at the White House, and the president's got to pick up the phone, Steve, and make a phone call, because Kemp and Jeff Duncan, the lieutenant governor, and Rafflesberger, the Secretary of State, basically are saying nothing to see here. What's the purpose of an audit if you're not auditing anything? This is an outrageous. Somebody needs to get involved, and all we have is a handful of people. Now, there's
the establishment's got to understand one thing. if the Trump people just say, hey, look, if that's what you're going to play, then maybe we sit out the January election. You know, Mitch McConnell won't be leader.
But then there's no country, Steve. So the stakes of those kind of threats are too high. You know, what we need here, what the object of the recount was.
You're not a negotiator, brother. You're not a negotiator. We're going home. We're going home, and we'll get our. You got to do some brinksmanship here. You're killing me. We got to do some brinksmanship.
Atlas shrugged, right?
Certainly, we're going home. We're calling John Fredericks. First thing we're going to do is recall John Fredericks from Atlanta. We're taking the John Fredericks radio show and the thing. We're bringing you back. We're going to bring you back. Yes, you got to threaten. You're not going to be around. Otherwise, they're going to. Otherwise, you're going to get rolled.
You don't need to do that. What you need to do, you need to keep everybody involved, and the White House has got to pick up the phone and call the governor and say, "What the hell is going on out there? We want a legitimate audit." And hey, their view is there's nothing to see here because it's on their watch. If there's nothing to see here, then the audit will prove that. I can't understand why they refuse to shine a light on this, Steve, but it's not going to end. I mean, more and more elected officials on the Republican side are going to stand up and have a spine here, and we want a legitimate audit. Right now, it's a fake and a sham, and it's a charlatan exercise.
Okay, we're going to check in with you in the afternoon show, see how that press conference went.
Thank you.
John Fredericks Radio Network down in Atlanta in the middle of the dogfight in